Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Fi Mastery Podcast, where our focus is on providing tools, resources, and insights that empower driven individuals to secure their own path to financial independence. My name is Peter Donisanu, and today we're going to talk about exponential growth. Now, this concept of exponential growth permeates all aspects of our lives, from the development of plants and animals to attempts at personal improvement, and most importantly, the way our savings grow over time. That's why in today's episode, we'll discuss how you can use this concept of exponential growth to figure out how much money you might need to save for your financial independence journey and how you can use the power of compounding to help get you there. Now, this essential approach is often overlooked by many individuals, so today we'll also take some time to discuss some of the challenges of understanding the roadblocks to thinking exponentially and what you can do to move past a linear mindset. So with that, let's dive into today's podcast. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to achieve enormous growth, whether in mastering new skills or building wealth, while others appear stuck in a static state of complacency? Well, exponential growth might just be the hidden answer. Now, before you write off this seemingly abstract concept, let's take a moment to think about this concept in simpler terms. To do this, picture yourself standing at the foot of a towering mountain of opportunity. Now, the peak is barely visible because it's shrouded in the clouds of potential. Even so, this mountain represents the concept of exponential growth, a potent yet often misunderstood principle that is the power to rapidly accelerate your life and financial goals. So where does exponential growth fit in? Well, you can think of exponential growth as a small snowball at the top of the mountain. Now, as it begins to roll down that mountain, it gathers more snow, growing in size and speed. Now, imagine the snowball is your initial $10,000 savings investment. Initially, it may not seem substantial, but once you give it a bit of time and the right conditions, you'll likely be looking at an avalanche of progress and prosperity. So what can you do to tap into this power to fast track your progress to financial independence? Well, the first step is to get out of the trap of thinking about your money in a linear fashion. That's because once you truly grasp how exponential growth works, you can then take advantage of two critical concepts to save less money to reach your financial goals and have more money set aside each month to enjoy your lifestyle instead of worrying about the future. Now, outside of winning the lottery or coming into a sizable windfall, there's no shortcut on your path to financial independence. You know, it's like running a marathon. It requires patience, consistency, and a willingness to start even if the benefits aren't immediately apparent. Even so, you'll likely have the motivation you need once you have a firm grasp of how small actions today can influence big financial goals tomorrow. Now, to fully grasp the concept of exponential growth, you need to understand its essence. And what is exponential growth? Well, exponential growth or exponential decay refers to a constant rate of increase or decrease. And one of the simplest ways to think about this phenomena is compound interest. How so? Well, consider the growth of $10,000. Now, if you put that money to work today, earning a 5% growth rate at the end of the first year, your investment will have grown to $10,500. In the second year, the 5% growth rate is not only applied to your initial $10,000 investment, but also to the $500 you earn in interest, resulting in a total of $11,025. Now, this pattern of accumulation continues over time, becoming increasingly dramatic the longer you let it grow. In fact, if you took $10,000, invested it at a 5% growth rate, and left it alone for 50 years, you would have nearly $115,000 available to you to spend. So then it's this pattern of growth, starting off small and slow and then rapidly rising, that characterizes exponential growth. Now, it's important to keep in mind that exponential growth is not confined to the realm of abstract concepts. That's because it manifests in various facets of everyday life. A prime example is the evolution of technology, which adheres to the principles of exponential growth as demonstrated by Moore's law. And according to this law, the number of transistors on a microchip doubles approximately every 2 years, propelling technological progress forward at an astonishing pace. Nature too abounds with instances of exponential growth. Bacterial growth serves as a classic example where where under optimal conditions, a single bacterial cell can divide and multiply, giving rise to 2, then 4, 8, 16, and so forth in an astonishingly short period of time. Now, despite its ubiquity, many individuals struggle to comprehend the true nature of exponential growth. And why is that? Well, to start, humans naturally tend to think of things in a linear fashion. We tend to perceive these relationships as straightforward and proportional. For example, if I walk an hour, I cover a certain distance, right? And if I double the duration of 2 hours, I cover twice the distance. In this situation, linear thinking hinges on constant rates. Even so, however, exponential growth operates differently, involving a rate of change that intensifies over time. And because this rate of change evolves over time, this non-linear nature can be counterintuitive and challenging for many to grasp. Now, another reason many individuals struggle with understanding exponential growth is because it often starts out slowly, only to suddenly surge forward. And it's this initial period of gradual growth that can lull people into a false sense of security, causing them to underestimate the profound long-term effects of the process. And where is this applicable? Well, we typically see this pattern of thinking observed in the context of epidemics, when reported infections are low but transmissibility is high, or in financial investments when an individual is just starting out in their savings journey and they barely see the effects of their investment growth. And when it comes to truly getting a grasp of exponential growth, some individuals may find the mathematical concept behind the process simply daunting. That's because it demands an understanding of multiplication and powers, which are concepts that may be unfamiliar or intimidating to some people. Even so, by delving into the depths of exponential growth and unraveling its intricacies, we can unlock its immense potential. Indeed, from fostering personal growth to harnessing financial gains, the mastery of this concept opens the doors to a world of possibilities. Now, while exponential growth has the potential to transform your finances, it also has an incredible capacity to propel your personal growth. That's because daily habits, even small positive changes, when consistently practiced, can yield substantial progress over time. It's like the compounding effect of interest. For example, let's say that you're interested in learning a new language and give it just 15 minutes a day of practice. While this approach may seem small and insignificant at first, over the span of a year, this modest commitment amounts to over 90 hours of practice that you've just completed, which is an impressive investment that can foster considerable advancement. Now, this concept extends well beyond learning a new language. Indeed, learning new skills, enhancing your physical well-being, and nurturing personal relationships can all experience exponential growth through the accumulation of tiny, consistent adjustments. That's because every minuscule change, when compounded over time, possesses the potential to catalyze remarkable personal growth. Alright, so now that you understand how essential exponential growth is for your personal and financial life, let's take a deeper dive and talk about how we can apply this concept from a financial perspective to determine how much you need to save to meet your essential life goals. Now, when considering complex savings goals like saving for post-employment living expenses, it's often tempting to settle around a round number like $1 million when thinking about your ideal financial independence savings target. But how can you be certain that this figure will support your lifestyle for the remainder of your life? That's where the concept of exponential growth enters the picture to help you calculate your financial independence number. And how do we calculate this figure? Well, to calculate how much you need to save for retirement or your post-employment living expenses, you must consider your savings journey in two distinct phases. The first phase, referred to as the accumulation phase, starts today and ends when you attain your definition of financial independence. This could be 10, 20, 30 years down the road, or whenever you decide to start using your savings to supplement your lifestyle. The second phase, known as the distribution phase, covers the period between when you achieve financial independence and your eventual passing. In simpler terms, it represents the duration for which you plan to live off your savings. Now, the big question you're probably asking is, how much should I save today to meet my financial independence goals? Well, obviously the answer here is it depends. That's because before you can accurately determine how much you need to save during your accumulation phase, you must understand how much you intend to spend during your distribution phase. Now, consider this analogy. If you're planning a cross-country road trip, how much fuel will you need? Well, the answer here depends on a few factors, such as your vehicle's fuel efficiency and your chosen route. You'll also have to consider whether you're planning a direct journey quickly or whether you anticipate detours to a scenic spot. Now, the same principle here applies to your journey towards financial independence. Just as you'd calculate your road trip's distance and fuel consumption, you need to estimate your retirement spending and income's savings potential to figure out how much you need to save today. And how do you go about doing this work? Well, let's illustrate these concepts with an example. And let's suppose your goal is to save enough money to supplement your lifestyle by $40,000 per year in today's dollars, and you plan to maintain this lifestyle throughout your 30 years in retirement. Now, your goal is to set aside enough money over the next 25 years to meet this future spending need by your financial independence date. So how much do you need to have saved? Well, while it might be tempting to simply multiply $40,000 by 30 years to calculate your retirement nest egg need, you'd likely end up with a linear result that could jeopardize your financial independence goals. That's because, as you'll recall from our earlier discussion, exponential growth works both ways. Not only can it boost your savings, exponential growth in expenses, like inflation, can eat away your future purchasing power. Indeed, history has shown that inflation tends to increase at an exponential rate as price growth compounds year over year. Indeed, when we incorporate inflation into our hypothetical lifestyle expense projection, assuming an average inflation rate of 3%, you'd need to spend $83,000 in 25 years to buy the same amount of goods and services you can buy today with $40,000. What's more, that $40,000 lifestyle expense today will likely rise to over $200,000 by the time you pass away in 55 years. So, given an annual inflation assumption of 3%, how much money would you need to have saved by your financial independence date in 25 years? Well, when taking inflation into consideration, you'd likely need just over $4.1 million to cover your rising lifestyle expenses. Now, before you get worried about the large savings figure, you can take comfort in knowing that you can use exponential growth during your distribution years to lower your overall savings need. That's because while inflation is an exponential factor that works against your savings, a compounding investment return can help mitigate your overall savings need. And so how does this work? Well, let's suppose that you decide to keep your savings invested throughout retirement and your investments grow at a rate of 5.5% per year. Now, you might be thinking, isn't that small investment return barely enough to offset my average inflation rate? Well, at first glance, it might seem that way, but let's examine how the numbers pan out over the long term. Now, you'll likely recall that without any investment return and just saving enough to cover 30 years worth of inflation-adjusted expenses, you'd need to have saved around $4.1 million. However, if your investments grow at 5.5% per year in your post-employment years, with inflation at 3%, you'd likely only need to save around $1.7 million, which is less than half of that original figure. And why is that? Well, that modest growth rate applied to your retirement savings acts as a buffer or a cushion that offers growth to your savings even as you're drawing down on the principal balance. And when your money has the opportunity to grow at a modest rate over a long period of time, it means that you need less money to start your retirement to fund your living goals. From this perspective, you can think of exponential growth of your retirement savings like a fruitful orchard. Just as a tree steadily grows and bears fruit year after year, your savings, growing at a modest rate over time, acts as a resilient tree that continues to produce new fruit even as you pluck some of the ripe ones. And in our case, the growth of your savings serves as a cushion, ensuring that your retirement nest egg keeps expanding even as you withdraw money from it. Now, it's crucial to bear in mind that these calculations are based on estimates and averages, and actual inflation rates and investment returns can vary. Therefore, it's vital to regularly review your financial plan, make necessary adjustments, and seek personalized advice from a financial planner who can help you make informed decisions based on your specific situation and goals. Now, when it comes to planning for your financial independence, it's crucial to have a clear understanding of how much you need to have saved to achieve your goals. And in our previous discussion, we explored this concept of exponential growth and its role in helping you understand your future savings needs. Now, let's shift our focus to determining the actual amount of money you should save today to meet your future financial goals. Now, as you'll recall, we can break down your journey towards financial independence into two phases, and that's the accumulation phase and the distribution accumulation phase. And given our hypothetical example earlier, we've already discussed how to calculate your savings need for when you need it in the future. So now let's tackle the fundamental question of how much do I need to set aside today to reach my post-employment savings goal? Well, to illustrate how to calculate your current savings plan, we'll continue with the same example we used earlier and draw upon the concept of exponential growth. And you'll likely recall that assuming an inflation rate of 3% during your retirement and an average investment return of 5.5% over 30 years, you'd likely need to save $1.7 million over the next 25 years. So far, so good, right? Now, if we divide 1.7 million by 25, we find that you would need to set aside approximately $68,000 annually to reach your goal, assuming you're starting with no savings today. Now, if you're just starting off with your savings goals, it's understandable that this figure may seem daunting, considering all the other various financial obligations and priorities that you may have in your life right now. However, there's a way to use the power of exponential growth to your advantage that can help reduce this annual savings need. And by doing so, you'll have more flexibility to enjoy your present while increasing your chances of achieving your financial independence goals. So how can you achieve this outcome? Well, let's consider a scenario where you invest your annual savings and let it grow at an average annual rate of 6.5% until you need it in 25 years. Now, using a time value of money calculation, we find that you would only need to set aside around $29,000 annually to reach your savings target of $1.7 million, which is a lot lower than our earlier linear estimate of $68,000. And so how is this possible? Now, while your principal contributions would amount to approximately $750,000 at this rate, the power of compounding would contribute to the growth of your investments to the tune of around $950,000 by the end of 25 years. Now, the key takeaway here is that the power of compounding not only increases the amount of money you can save, but more importantly, it reduces the amount of money you need to save over a given period of time. This outcome enables you to strike a balance between enjoying your life today and preparing for a financially secure future. Now, with all that said, it's crucial to note that financial planning involves various uncertainties and variables. That's because factors like changing economic conditions, personal circumstances, and investment performance can impact your overall savings goals. That's why it's crucial to frequently review your plan and seek personalized advice to ensure it remains aligned with your evolving savings needs. Either way, by understanding the concept of exponential growth and leveraging the power of compounding, you can gain a clear perspective on your savings journey and work towards achieving your definition of financial independence with confidence. Remember, financial planning is a dynamic process, and by staying informed and proactive, you can make the most of your financial resources both now and in the future. All right, so now that you have a grasp of the concept of exponential growth and its implications, let's talk about strategies for leveraging its power to expedite your life and savings goals. Now, one of the most crucial things you could do to take advantage of exponential growth is to start early. To be sure, starting early is a golden rule when it comes to leveraging exponential growth. It's like setting out on an adventure, and the sooner you embark, the more time you have to explore and experience things later on down the road. So whether it's honing a new skill, establishing a fitness routine, or investing your hard-earned money, the trick is to dive in as soon as possible. Now, you might not notice the benefits immediately, but it's much like planting a seed. The tree doesn't grow overnight. Yet with the passage of time, these small steps start to pile up and multiply, and just like that, you made some significant strides towards your goals. Another crucial consideration when it comes to exponential growth is to think of consistency as your reliable travel buddy on this journey. That's because regular contributions, whether it's to your knowledge bank, health goals, or investment portfolio, lay the groundwork for considerable growth over time. Indeed, just like a disciplined athlete achieves personal bests when they practice, your consistent efforts towards learning new skills or saving for the future can usher in an era of significant personal and financial growth. Now, a final point to consider when leveraging exponential growth to your advantage is to take small steps, giant leaps, and to leverage patience. And what are we talking about here? Well, let's consider the humble power of incremental improvements. Imagine improving just 1% each day for a year. that would lead to a whopping 37 times improvement due to the magical power of compounding. So from this perspective, don't underestimate the impact of even the smallest positive changes, because every bit counts. And when you're applying the concept of exponential growth, it's essential to remember to be patient. That's because exponential growth is a bit like watching a pot boil. It may seem slow at first, but before you know it, it's bubbling away. In a similar way, patience plays an instrumental role in this process. That's because it's all about appreciating that growth isn't always instantly visible, but when compounding kicks in, it takes off like a rocket. Now, make no mistake, having a firm grasp of the power of exponential growth can be a game changer for your personal and financial journey. And by making a shift away from linear thinking and embracing exponential thinking, you can likely achieve incredible results over a period of time. Remember, it's just like a small snowball rolling down a mountain. Your initial investments and daily habits can gather momentum and lead to an avalanche of progress and prosperity. So then the key is to start today and remain consistent in your efforts, because even the smallest positive change can have a significant impact when it's compounded over time. And remember, when it comes to using exponential growth to calculate your savings need, you'll need to be mindful of both the accumulation and distribution phases of your financial journey. Even so, by using the principles of exponential growth and the power of compounding, you can confidently determine how much you may need to save today to meet your future financial goals. In the end, you have the power to tap into the awe-inspiring force of exponential growth and to unlock limitless personal and financial changes in your life. So get after it with confidence and watch as your small steps transform into giant leaps on your path to mastering your financial independence journey. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the FI Mastery podcast. To learn more about our research, visit us at fimastery.com or email your questions to questions@franklinmadisonadvisors.com. Until next time, I'm Peter Donisanu, wishing you and yours abundant health and prosperity.
FI Mastery Podcast is brought to you by Franklin Madison Advisors, Inc. Franklin Madison Advisors is a registered investment advisor firm with its registration and principal place of business in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Registration of an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skills or training. This commentary and forecasts are limited to the dissemination of general information pertaining to Franklin Madison Advisors investment advisory services and general economic and market conditions, and are subject to change without notice. The information shared today is not intended to be personal, legal, investment, or tax advice, or a solicitation to buy or sell any security or engage in a particular investment strategy. For additional information about Franklin Madison Advisors, including fees and services, please contact Franklin Madison Advisors or refer to the Investment Advisor public disclosures.